Yeah, definitely. It's an important question for the Colombian economy, which now depends heavily on oil exports, not only as a source of exports, but also as a source of fiscal revenues. But on the one hand, I do feel that the macro environment, it's critical. It's kind of a necessary but not sufficient condition for diversification. And that is shown in what Colombia has able to show after this negative terms of trade shock, where export prices collapsed in a short period of time, and that led to a huge impact in terms, not only in the current account, but also in terms of our fiscal revenues. So what you see in Colombia is that before we were growing around 4.5% on average, and then afterwards we were growing at 2%. Now, if you compare that to other countries that suffer from a fall in oil prices, we actually managed to do very well. We didn't have a recession, for example. And Colombia, for the past century, has shown remarkable stability. More than 100 years, we have only seen 3 years of negative growth. 2 of those were in the Great Depression, and the last one was in 1999 during the Great Emerging Market Crisis. So again, macro, I think it's a necessary condition, but not sufficient. You need to go from the macro to the micro perspective. And that, in that sense, what we're doing is not only, of course, advancing in terms of the traditional competitiveness view, so having more efficient airports, more efficient ports, building roads, improving the quality of our infrastructure, but also going a little bit inside the enterprises. For example, we have seen that especially those firms that have negative or zero productivity growth are firms that tend to have very bad managerial practices. And why don't these managers update their practices? They typically don't know that they're not that good. There's not that high competition from abroad, so we have distortions on the product market side, on the labor market side. So those kind of micro reforms are really important to unlock managerial practices, improve the handling of these enterprises, and increasing productivity growth. So I tend to agree that the point is not having diversification, is making sure that you have the right macro and micro balance to increase productivity growth. And that's what we're aiming for in Colombia.
So you mean that the diversification does not necessarily lead to the productivity growth?
We have seen that exactly. You could have a very diversified economy, but if they're not, for example, tied to global chains, or you don't have huge competition from abroad, so you can have a very diversified way of markets that are not competing with the world, so then you could have actually very, very low productivity growth. So you have to advance on micro, but you also have to make these enterprises compete with the world markets as well.
But how do you look at the sectoral intervention policies? Are they needed?
Yes, definitely. But what we've seen is we're trying to have a logical approach to this in trying to make sure that we know what are the market or governmental failures that we have to resolve. And with that approach, we're trying to favor not specific interventions, but probably what we call sectoral public goods. Not trying to choose sectors because, of course, there's a high risk of political capture. So instead of doing that, we're again trying to think about what are the needed public goods to unlock productivity growth in specific sectors.
So you do not agree with Abraham very much about the sectors?
Well, the experience in Colombia has not been good in terms of specific sectoral policies. So again, we feel that it's important to know beforehand what are the market or governmental failures that are preventing these sectors from unlocking their growth, and that's kind of the approach that we're having right now.
Yeah.